Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. It's Tuesday the 8th of September. I'm Peter Martin, delighted to have your company. Don't forget to like, share and follow us on Facebook. You can subscribe absolutely free on our YouTube channel. No guesses about what we're going to be talking about. In the company of Alan Roughie, we have Darren Jackson and Mark McGee. They know all about Scotland. Let's see if they're going to cut to the chase with a baseball bat or if they're going to toe some kind of Scottish party line on this one. I'll start it off and take the first kick and see if McGee goes in with the studs just above my knee. Anyway, agony. I think I swore at the telly about 100 times. I couldn't believe some of the players can't pass the ball 20 yards. It was disorganised. We were lucky in the end to somehow manage to hold on 2-1 against a second, third string Czech Republic side. It was absolutely dire. And I mentioned last night on Twitter, Roughie, I think we've been rudderless since Gordon Strachan was sacked from the job. And with what talent we have in that squad, we don't have anybody that can beat a player. We certainly don't have one that can go and look for a forward pass on a regular basis. It was abysmal to watch.
Right, now don't shout to me right away, right? You know, first of all, from a footballing point of view, the manager will say we won. He will say we're sitting top of the league. You can't take that away from him. But if you look at the performance, it is poor. And I think anybody who watched it, the buzzword seems to be underachieving. And that set of players are definitely underachieving. They're quality players. We know they're a lot better than that. But you have to look at the facts. We've scored 3 goals. 2 of them have been penalties. We haven't broken anybody down. We don't look as if we can break anybody down. And I just think if you look at the future, unfortunately, I turned the telly over and watched the Norway game. Norway look as if they're one of the candidates if we do get through the Israel game. Far better than us, far better movement, quality players. We've got a long way to go. We've just got a long way to go, and we're looking for the players to possibly give them the benefit of the doubt. They're not up to speed. So let's hope they can be up to speed when these games come round.
Mark McGee, I thought it was agonising to watch at times, but I always go back to Roughie and myself when you were there with Gordon going down the tunnel at Wembley after a 3-0 defeat, and Gordon, mentioned the fact that we have to find defenders. We had to find central defenders. We lost cross balls into the box. We still haven't rectified the defence. I mean, I like Steve Clarke, and I'm sticking by him, and I still think he's got a tough job on his hands, but my God, what are we doing? Are we playing a 3? Are we playing a 4? Are we playing Scott McTominay at centre half? It's all wrong.
Well, I mean, if the criticism can be around the shape, it's changed from a 4 to a 3 and all of that, and you can, if you want, you can bring criticism to that. However, you said it right at the beginning there. They've got nobody that can beat anybody, and that means that it's not that they've got somebody in the squad who can beat somebody and they're not beating them. You said it. They've not got anyone who can beat somebody. They've not got anybody who can get in over the top. So they can't really stretch people. So right away, you've described the way in which they're handicapped. So that combined with the uncertainty, I think, that surrounded the game. Because on Friday I got a text from a friend of ours saying the game was off. And I took it was off. Then the next thing the game was on. Now, you can be absolutely sure that sort of uncertainty would have got through to the players as well and left them kind of not really known and interrupted and interfered with their preparation. So I think there's a lot you've got to forgive. I think there's also a lot that the manager's got to look at and learn from and make a decision about the shape. But, you said it. We don't have centre half, so therefore McTominay plays there. Why did Liam Cooper not play? There's different things. The questions were all asked that the manager maybe can answer for us. But I think we have to be careful not to be too hard on them.
Yeah, okay. Before I go to Dan, I want to ask you one thing then. On the basis of what we have available, Mark, the one thing we don't do, and I find the whole thing infuriating for professional footballers, if we haven't got the skills and the technique maybe to get in behind players, we certainly have a Lyndon Dykes who gives us an option we didn't have before. And the one positive I took out of the game was the boy Palmer, Liam Palmer, played an early fine ball into him to give him a chance to get ahead of the defenders and score the goal. We're ponderous, slow. We can't play a quick pass. It's almost, do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the Andy Roxburgh school of teaching people how to play football. Why don't you take one touch to get it under control, one touch to maybe think about a pass, and then the third one's play the pass? By that time, they've all set themselves up and we have to break down 10 players. Why can't you play the ball quickly? We can't do that, Mark.
Well, I think we have the ability within the squad. If there's any part of the squad that's got numbers in terms of ability, it's the midfield area. So maybe you've got to build a team where the strength is in the midfield and, work at a system that allows you to make the best of those players, So, last night you've got McGregor and you've got John McGinn and that on the bench. These are two players that in another day, come the Israel game, will be in the team. So I do think we have strengths here, and I do think we have a shape we can make around those sort of players that can make us a much better team.
Yeah. What is it about the mindset, Darren? Are we scared? Have we got players that don't believe in themselves? Are they scared to take on the responsibility? I just wonder about that, because make the pass, it's 10 yards away. Kenny McLean tries to make a cross-field pass, gives it away, and all of a sudden we've lost a goal.
It was Peter last night, and listen, I'm a big fan of Kenny McLean, Fleck, McGregor, McGinn. They're good players. I do think we miss, and Mark and Roughie we do miss a midfield player that can start things. I've always said I was lucky enough. McStay, McAllister, a Barry Ferguson. We don't have a player that can dominate the game, and that's a problem. Everyone else is a nice passer of the ball and playing out wide, and I was frustrated last night. Stuart Armstrong, who was brilliant for us at Dundee United, just maybe giving the ball away too much last night. And when you're giving the ball away at international level, you don't get it back right away. It's different when you're playing with maybe a Rangers or Celtic and you give it away. You get back within seconds. But in international football, and they did well last night. They weren't the best, but they did well, and they put us under an awful lot of pressure. But I just feel we kind of lack, and probably with Dykes up front, rather than Christie kind of being up there, where he's more happy coming onto the game. I would have liked him to play off Dykes rather than play up with him.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the reaction we're getting on Facebook and YouTube. Errol Campbell, I think, Errol, you're a wee bit unfair on this one. And I'm not going to blame him for it. He says McTominay was abysmal. Quite a few others are talking about, McTominay was garbage. Derek Scott says it's only because he plays for Manchester United he gets a game. I'm going to defend the lad. He's not a centre-half. He shouldn't be playing there in the first place, Roughie. What message does that send to the other centre-halves he's got in this squad?
Yeah, I think we'd all agree on that, and I think the boy would agree on it as well. But when your manager tells you that's where you want to play and you're putting on that jersey, you just get on with it. I prefer him in the midfield, and Darren's looking. I know he's not the kind of player that Darren's talking about, but I think he's got a physical attribute to be that central guy in midfield, and just let people run about him, do all the work. I think he's got a presence in there. I think it's unfair on the boy to be there. So, no, I don't think he's due any criticism. He's just in there doing his best, and I don't think it is his best position.
Yeah. Mark, if we haven't got centre-halves, or if he hasn't got enough centre-halves to play the three at the back, then don't play it. He had two centre-halves they could easily have played. I was gobsmacked Tierney was on the bench, but he still has Scott McKenna, Liam Cooper, as you mentioned. He can play, Kieran Tierney in the centre of that defence, and he's got Andy Robertson there, and play a 4-5-1 if they still want to keep it tight.
Yeah, but one of the things that, there's a little thing going on as well in the politics of it. And don't think that's irrelevant. Steve Clarke has to consider the clubs, has to consider the managers, the pressure he gets, to play, particularly the top players. It should be the same for them all. But you imagine, what Arsenal's saying about Tierney, what they're saying about McTominay and the clubs themselves. Perhaps even Liam Cooper, getting pressure from clubs not to overdo it with these players. Now, it could well be that Steve's looked at that and he's facilitated that kind of need to kind of please the clubs by sort of boxing clever, knowing that he can win the game with practically permanent 11. from the squad, and I think that was the case last night. I think you could have picked any 11 from our players and beat that team last night. Whether another formation or another 11 would have beaten them more convincingly, who knows? But I think Steve knew that he could win that game, and I think would also be boxing clever in a sense to keep the clubs happy. And I think that's something that is not always appreciated. We used to get it, we got all sorts of pressure from clubs about, people playing 2 games, and that was, Celtic as well, with Bruni. I mean, we wanted Bruni to play every minute of every game, but, there was a certain pressure that, he played too many games, he had Champions League games and all that, so we used to get a lot of pressure. Gordon used to get a lot of pressure not to play these boys in a double header, play them 90 minutes. So there's all these things that the manager has to take into account.
Yeah, listen, I don't want to be in a situation where we are. I can only be honest in my appraisal of it. Nobody, even long before I get into journalism, I would follow Scotland everywhere, as you well know, Darren. But I looked at it and I thought to myself, we're playing the ball back. I mean, just for somebody to come and say, give me the ball and I will go forward with it. But at times, Darren, not only was it slow and ponderous, it was all the way back and then across to the right-hand side. It was hard to watch at times because we were going nowhere.
It was, yes. As I said, Peter, I thought we gave the ball away cheaply too many times. And that's, as I said, they are good players. And I'm not just saying that. Fleck's done extremely well at Sheffield United. Okay, Norwich went down, but Kenny McLean had a good season, got a new contract. McGregor's done unbelievable. McGinn's done unbelievable. So, and then, yes, Roughie's talk about McTominay being in there probably for his presence. But it was slow, and it was giving the ball away. No, really, it was slow. They're trying to play up to Dykes, and make it perfect up to Dykes. You don't have to make it perfect up to Dykes because he's got that presence that he will hold the ball up. He will play it into the areas that boys are going to run into. He did that a few times, and there's no way I would say go route one. But the way the game was going, we should have probably just went a wee bit quicker forward than we did in the game, because Dykes I thought he was doing okay. I thought he did in the 2 games. I thought he did himself really proud. I thought he handled your you know what it's like, Mark and Roughie know what it's like, their first caps. It's nerve-wracking. I think he's done really well. And the run he made for the goal, that was probably, as you said, the first time we got a decent ball in behind. Robertson got forward. Again, Robertson's caught offside a couple of times, and I'm not being disrespectful to the players that he's playing with. But he's playing when he plays with Liverpool, balls get played a bit earlier, even 2 seconds earlier, and he's onside. And Andy would have been in a few times. So it was. It could have been, the game could have been, the tempo could have been a lot quicker for us.
Yeah, just to clarify, obviously, from time to time it's a joy getting Mark on. Just to let you know, Mark, that although we are all in boxes, you can't be affected by Roughie consistently coughing. You are sufficiently far enough away from him.
To be fair, I was going to go and get my mask there, I thought.
Are you okay, Roughie? I'm worried about you for the tennis tonight.
Just a wee head cold, but I'll get through it.
Sorry.
Have you not got your Germany mask, Roughie? No.
Yeah, and I've got my Partick Thistle one there. I might put that on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done, Mark. That's exactly what I was thinking about as well, as he kept on coughing there. Anyway, apart from anything else, Darren Jackson, Mark McGee and Alan Rough, I'd absolutely kill for all 3 of them to be fit and ready to play. Listen, over and above, Karen Pringle has just said, Peter, has Roughie got the coronavirus because it's intermittent coughing? But don't worry, the big man is absolutely all right, 69, fighting fit, and still, look at Mark raising an eyebrow there, he can't believe it himself, but he's still playing tennis, he's still in good nick. What about Steve Clarke? I mean, there's a lot of people talking about the fact that he's boring. Listen, I couldn't care if a manager hasn't got any, outward personality, that he's an all-singing, dancing person. As long as they can get a winning team on the park. This is what Steve Clarke had to say about the performance.
The way we defended the last 15 minutes, when it doesn't matter who you play, if there's only 1 goal in the game and they can keep putting the ball into your box, you have to show resolution, character and defend well. We did that at the end of the game. Both strikers scored. So positives to come out. Like I said before, I go away, analyse the game, and or analyse both games and then get ready for next month.
Well, I'm going to go to Mark on this, and the only reason I'm going to you, Mark, on this is because you and I obviously at times have been friendly with the bold Gordon, and Gordon had a wonderful technique of painting a picture of a game that I sometimes wondered if I was at the same game as him. So Steve Clarke has managed to do the same there.
Well, that's the art of being any manager, almost, never mind international manager of Scotland. I think you have to always accentuate the positive. But, you know, we've spoken about this before, Peter, and I think that we have to, you know, consider Steve to be in a long-term project. You know, give him time. You know, last night was just another part of the experience for a lot of these players. We spoke about this, you know, in another year's time, people like John McGinn will have played another 40 or 50 top-flight games, you know, McTominay, these boys. So there'll be better players for it, and the squad will be better for it, the team will be better for it, and we'll benefit from that. But we need to give them time, and we need to let them have these experiences, you know, let them take it away, let them analyse it, and let the boys come back and talk about it and why, you know, as you say, they didn't pass the ball, can they pass the ball quicker, how to pass the ball quicker, and make sure that in the next game they benefit from that, which I'm convinced it will.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm heartened by the fact that you said give him time, because I don't think there's anybody in their right mind is talking about bulleting him unless you're completely off your rocker. I mean, he's a manager who's got to try and find a system. He's got to try and play things quicker, and players have got to take responsibility, Mark.
Yeah, but you know, I'm talking about, you know, not working from game to game. No, let's not think about the next game. Let's think about, you know, the next competition. You know, the World Cup. You know, let's think about that. Even if we qualify, or don't qualify, let's think about the World Cup, and you know, and you know, imagine in 4 years' time or 5 years' time how, as I've described, all these boys that you're talking about, even, you know, McBurney and guys like that who isn't there, you know, they end up, you know, with another, you know, 200 league games. You know, how much better will they be then? But they're not at that stage yet. They need to get to that stage. So give them time. You know, we had players like Bruni and that who had, you know, 500 games under the belt, or, you know, James Morrison or MacArthur, boys that had played a lot of games. These boys haven't played as many games, so they need time to develop at the clubs as well as in the international stage. And then, you know, Steve Clarke will have a chance.
Yeah, and Steve Clarke did mention another part of the positive, which I think we all agree on over the last two games, which was, of course, Lyndon Dykes.
Yeah, he was good again tonight, Lyndon. Pleased for him. He got his goal. Was actually a really good goal. Almost the first time in the game we showed a little bit of quality on the ball. We got the switcher play in, got the Leon Palmer free on the right hand side. Good ball in, and Lyndon finished between the sticks. Good centre forward play. Obviously he tired later in the game, but it was another really big performance from Lyndon, and pleased for him.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I do like about him, Roughie, and I really would like to see this, and I don't mean it in a bad way. I'd like us to have, after the game against Israel, Lyndon Dykes in the after-match interview said, you know, listen, we've got to do better than that. You know, it's one each. We should have been winning that game. I like a wee bit of arrogance. You know, and Mark's team that he played in had that wee bit of arrogance at Aberdeen and at Celtic. Darren played in that teams. He's played in countless teams who've had that wee bit of arrogance from certain players. I like that, Roughie. I think we need to develop that. We need to have a wee bit of a mean streak. We need to have someone who's going to be confident about it. There's too many players for me. I don't know if they're reading or listening or you know, or just maybe they're so affected by the fact that we haven't got there in such a long time.
Yeah, but I think Mark touched on a good point there. I don't think a lot of these players that are playing just now have earned that arrogance yet. That they've not done anything yet to be strolling about a park thinking they are better players than what they are. The young boy Dykes is obviously self-confident in himself. Don't have a problem with that. I'm sure a lot of the other boys have as well, confidence. But I don't think there's anybody done anything in the game at a high standard like some of the people that Darren were talking about, you know, wee Barry or Paul McStay or Bruni. You know, they all have established themselves at club level, European football. Most of these guys that Mark's talking about are just beginning to get into that, you know. So I don't have a problem waiting But I think it'd be disappointing if we don't get to the playoff games. I think everybody's expecting us to do something. I've said it all along, I don't think they'll have a problem with Israel. I don't think Israel have got 2 goals in them. I think at home we should beat them. On the night, if some of the boys turn up, I think we've got players there. It's the next game that's the problem for me, as I said, after watching Norway the other night.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, Roughie, I love your confidence there, by the way, because Roughie's just said, Mark, I don't have a problem waiting. I mean, I'll be wheeling you around Strathclyde Park, dabbing the side of your mouth, going, I think we've qualified, Roughie. I think we've qualified.
No, I was a wee bit worried when Mark said 5 years. Could you cut that a wee bit to 2 or 3 so I could maybe see it?
But, listen, one of the things you see, you talk about Norway, they've got a player like the boy Haaland, and they've got a star player. We used to say about, even Ireland had, with Keane and Wales with Gareth Bale. At the moment, Scotland lack a kind of, a marquee player, and that makes a difference. That wins you games. These are players that can win you a game, But we've therefore got to look at the sum of the parts. We've got to hope that our best 11 are fit come Israel. And I think, it's a little bit like when we played, what was the game at home, the last competition? Was it Albania? Who did we play? Anyway, we won like 4 at home, and I was convinced we would win by that sort of margin. And it's with this. I think if our best 11 with Tierney and all these sort of boys McGinn and that are all fit, then I think they will go out in that game with their sleeves rolled up, and the game will be over by half time, and we'll be wondering what we were worrying about. But come a team like Norway with a sort of star player, then that's when it's going to be difficult, and that's when the centre halves are going to have to stand up and play well, and he's going to have to pick the right system to deal with a player like that.
Yeah, I mean, Hugh Hepburn Duff has just said, I watched Norway last night. They're very good, and that could be Scotland's next opponents. I mean, Hugh, I think, on Facebook shares all our fear on that. I mean, Darren, you are a striker. I mean, I felt sorry for Gareth Macaulay in the Sky Sports studio, because when they started showing the replay of Haaland's first finish, I mean, he takes it on the volley, left-footed, into the back of the net. And as soon as he scored it, I thought, oh, he's coming for us shortly.
Well, Tommy Johnson was part of Northern Ireland's backroom staff, and he was at the game, obviously, and he texted me last night, and he just put Haaland, wow. He said just totally unplayable. The strength, his ability, his pace. He said, but you have to stand up. But can I just go back to the point? And I know I'm probably going to put a lot of pressure on this kid, but I think Billy Gilmore has that arrogance that we're looking for. Billy Gilmore has shown in a game against Man United and a game against Liverpool that he's prepared to take the ball. He's prepared to start the play passes forward. And I think Billy, I don't care about his age. I think Billy can be ready to go in and play in that midfield and be the main man, because that's what he's used to through his whole career. He's been used to at every level he's played at. I had him at 19s, and he just wanted the ball all the time. In training, he wanted the ball all the time, making angles, enthusiasm, energy to go and get on the end of things, go and pick the ball up. And I do honestly think Billy could be a massive part for us.
Yeah, fingers crossed there are 3 or 4 players that may well, including Billy Gilmore, come into it. I mean, some people are looking and thinking, is Ryan Gauld completely out of the equation because he's played second division Portugal, the second division in the Portuguese league? Who knows? We're just desperate to get people who can come and take the
Peter,
ball and show a bit of confidence.
You're talking McBurney's to come back. Hopefully Griffiths is to come back. Ryan Fraser's signed for Newcastle, which is an unbelievable move for him. He's playing there every week. So there you've got three forward players that would come back into your big-time reckoning.
Yeah. Listen, it's next month. I mean, that's the thing about it. We just hope, as Mark said, I mean, I admire Mark's confidence on it. I would like to say thanks to so many people, Scotland fans, fans who want to offer their opinion. Thanks on Facebook and YouTube as well. Don't forget, There are kids who follow this programme too. So Hugh Reid, this is possibly not the show for you, but try and post things that are your opinion, all to do with football, and we'll try and read as many of them out as we possibly can. Because the great thing about PLZ Soccer and the Football Show and all across our social media is we do have a lot of great informed fans who follow us and post decent stuff. So I would implore you to try and stay down that line. And if you've got something that's scathing about the team, by all means, give us your opinion on it. Darren Jackson, Mark McGee and Alan Ruff are here. I'm absolutely delighted because they've all played for Scotland. Two of them have scored, and Roughie, as we know, has saved more than a few in his time and played in some big games too. So give us your thoughts. We'd be more than happy for you to offer your thoughts on Scotland. Are you optimistic? Do you think things can go? Mark, have I missed a compliment about you? Go on. yeah. Listen, the good thing is you've all scored. That's the good thing. Apart from, obviously, Roughie. Anyway, apart from anything else, the one thing that did worry me, and I was a wee bit worried about it, was have a look at this stat, because this is the thing about it. Although we're being critical, and we're perfectly within our rights to be critical of the game, because that's what you're offering here. We're not savaging the manager, it's time to go, or anything like that. But Roughie, when you look at the situation here, shots in the Israel game, corners in the Israel game, possession, and then you look at the Czech Republic game as well. I mean, some of the stats for us are absolutely abysmal. I don't even think we had a corner in the match. Shots on target 3, they had 19. And this is a second or a third string Czech Republic side. For the players that were picked by Steve Clarke, their performance wasn't good enough. So although we were looking at other things about players that are coming back in, I think they deserve the criticism. It's not unfair criticism, Roughie.
No, I think you have to be honest. When you look at the game, you look at the 90 minutes, you have to say, as we would say if we were unfortunate not to get a draw, I think the Czech Republic deserved a draw. I think they did enough in the game to get something out of the game. I personally don't think it was a penalty for us.
I think I missed Roughie just at the crucial time there on that one. He doesn't think it was a penalty. Do you think it was a penalty? It's an interesting one. There was the penalty. Of course, the positive aspect was Liam Palmer getting that ball in early for Lyndon Dykes to score. But boy, when they scored that first goal, it looked ominous for us. And then in the last 10 minutes, we were holding on. And lots of people actually mentioning their idea of the performance, and the stats say it all, says Callum Dillery. Oh my God, it's the only way to sum it up. And lots of people thought the lad from Leeds did well at the back once he settled down, says Bill McMullen. Ian Cairns not too happy. Get rid of Clarke, bring in Sir Alex for his last hurrah. That might cost us a few quid, to be perfectly honest with you. So lots of differing opinions on individuals, whether they played well or not. We continue now with looking at the Nations League group. Here's a positive, Darren. Hey, we're moaning, we're moaning, and we're top of the group, Darren. But it's, the stats in this occasion don't tell the full story, I'm afraid to say.
Peter, people get caught up in stats nowadays, and it's the stat that we want to look for is we 1-2-1. Yes, can we improve? We're all saying we can improve. Can Stevie? Mark and I were speaking before we came on. I played in a team that played in a back three. Hendry, Calderwood and Boyd. We lost 3 goals in the qualifying campaign. But you've got to work on it. You can't just, because we're looking at the boys that played at the back, all of them, they all play in a back 4. So it's going to take time. If that's the system he wants to play, because he's going to have to get Tierney and Robertson in the team. So you're going to have to play Tierney left side of a 3 or the left side of a 2. So he's decided it's a 3. So let's stick with it. And he's got Dykes there now. I would like to see a McBurney, as I've said before, maybe a McBurney or a Griffiths who can play up with him and play round his feet and play off him and all that would be better. But I've told you I scout for Blackpool. I had to watch a game the other day there, and it was QPR Sheffield Wednesday, and it was something like QPR had something like 72% possession, and they lost 2-1. So you can look at it in a positive way, but you can look at it in a negative way as well. The result at the end of the day, that's what you're looking for. It's probably especially at international level, because you take so long for the next game to come.
Yeah, I know a lot of people will say, Darren, if we keep winning and we're ranked rotten, then let's keep doing it, but
It will not be ranked.
I'm
Not be ranked.
no, but I'm just, I was making the point. I don't think I could suffer watching it for 90 minutes constantly in my life, the way it was,
I'm not taking away from the stats are rubbish because we won. Obviously, the performance has to get better. I think Stevie will know that, but you've got to get a settled midfield. Obviously, Mark, we're talking about. I think they've had some information from Arsenal that maybe Kieran can't play 2 games in the short space of time because he's been out so long.
Yeah.
Peter, we had that with the 19s. The medical team, you got a letter saying, can you do this with him after the game? Can you do that with him after the game? He struggles to play 2 games, so can they play a game and a half? So you have to be, and Mark knows this better than me because he's involved with the management team, but you have to be respectful to you can't just say, well, they're playing for the country, we're not really worried, because it's their club you have to think of as well. So I would think that's definitely happened.
Darren,
was there ever a time, Mark?
When we were in charge, we got a phone call one day, or the physios got a phone call one day. I'm not naming the player or the club, but they were complaining that because we send back all the stats, of course, to the clubs. We've got to, and all the training schedules and all that. And we got a complaint from one of the clubs that the player had trained for 20 minutes too long.
Yeah,
you can imagine. You can imagine Gordon's reaction. But that's what they say. He's trained for 20 minutes too long.
That's true, Peter. You have to because we have the heart monitors and all that. They have to send back all the stats to the club to show them what they've done. So that's you have to respect the clubs as well. And people say, "Oh, you're playing for your country." Yes, I know you are, but you've got to respect that they've maybe paid 25 million for Kieran Tierney, and they need to look after him for the season coming up.
That's right.
Yeah, listen, I'm not knocking that. I take all your points on board with all that, and Mark saying there about the train 20 minutes too long, that would never have happened in Roughie's day. I mean, when the stats were sent back, Roughie, you'd have been well within the limits to go straight back to Partick Thistle.
Peter, I would love to have seen Gordon's face. I would love to have seen Gordon's face when that came out.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. Absolutely. Listen, just a couple of things. James Thompson, who's a top fan and watches the programme regularly. Thanks, James, for joining us. Always good to get your opinion. Peter, as club and individual players, they're first class, but when they get together for Scotland, they can't seem to do it. James, a good point. A lot of people will look at how they perform in a different setup. I mean, Andy Robertson only has to look up, play an early ball into Sadio Mane, and all bets are off. The ball could be in the back of the net 2 seconds later, but we just don't have that type of player. But it's a good point you make, James. We need to get them together and get that performance going in the right direction. So thanks to the countless people who have posted messages all to do with Scotland. Now, some people are actually looking forward to getting back to the domestic football. Niall Kane's very, very complimentary towards Mark McGee, just thanking him for his time at Motherwell and all he did for the club. Niall's a big Motherwell fan, and it's always nice, I think, when people look back on some of the jobs that our guests have done at various clubs, and none better than Mark in the time at Motherwell, still held in high regard by a lot of Motherwell fans. Cheryl, our journalist, has just posted a bit of news that's breaking as ever. Hickey is on his way. He's taken to Instagram after 4 amazing years at Hearts. I want to give a massive thanks to my family and friends. And he says, all the players, staff and the fans for supporting me through the years. Wishing all the best to Heart and Midlothian in the coming seasons, which tells you, Roughie, that Bologna beckons.
Yeah, I think we've all had a view on this. We've all personally said what he should be doing. Some people are saying he should stay for another year. Some people say he should go and and take a shot at it. I'm at the stake, take a shot at it, and I know where people are coming from. If Hearts had maybe been in the Premiership, I would have stayed another year, but a year in the Championship, I would be looking at that and weighing it up against a new career abroad. It depends what kind of assurances he's got when he goes over there. Has he got a chance to get in the first team? He must believe that he has a chance to get in the first team, or he wouldn't have went. And if it doesn't work, he can always come back. So he's young enough with full career in front of him.
Well, on the occasions I've... did you get caught a bit short there, Mark? Did you have to just quickly nip out to the toilet and then come back?
Into the mains.
Oh, you've just plugged it into the mains, which is
Right.
fantastic. Wow, electricity hits Brighton. That is
Yeah.
sensational. Because quite a lot of the electricity... Well, quite a lot of the electricity in the Brighton area, Roughie, is used for the Zimmers and the little scooters to help everybody get around on the beach down there. So that's fantastic. That's fantastic news.
Yeah.
Anyway, Bill McMullen says, I'm watching...
It's as if they've cut his legs off as well while he was away.
Oh, brilliant. Anyway, it was top draw. I just looked at it, I thought, that's why I love him, by the way. Just does it off the cuff. It's magic. Thanks to so many people watching. Bill's in Toronto in Canada as well. We've got people following us. Tim, also in Toronto. Love the show, guys. We are absolutely delighted that so many people join us near and far to tune in to see exactly what happens. And it's absolute chaos at times. Sometimes we're just asking questions and people go away, get themselves a beer and then come back to us. It's as simple as that. But that's the joy. You know it's live. When we've got these guys here. And I'm delighted Mark joins us because I always think Mark, with his experience, has got a lot to offer. It's one of those times when you always want to ask a question. If you want to ask Mark a question about the Aberdeen days, his time at Celtic, of course, his time in Germany too, because, Mark, we were talking about it there, Aaron Hickey on his way. What are the types of things that he will encounter that, from your experience of playing abroad, that, you know, will be maybe not a rude awakening to him, but it certainly will catch him on the hop?
Well, it's very practical things. Language, food, being away from home, those sort of things, being away from his family, not having that support network immediately around you. That can all be quite difficult. But, the other side of it is, that it will sort of expand his experience and his ambitions. I think it's a great thing for a young player to go abroad.
Yeah, absolutely. We wish him well. Ronnie Chapman says Rangers players played well on international games, Peter. Listen, I don't know about you, but I look at any player who goes away in international duty. You want them to do well. You want to see them play well. I was delighted. I'm going to give a mention because we're going to look at the scores quickly on this. But Roughie, I think Stephen Davis deserves special mention because to equal Pat Jennings' record is, some going. I mean, I've got a lot of time for Stephen. I think he's a gem of a guy.
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, anybody gets over 100 caps is absolutely amazing. He's obviously been there for a long, long time, in and out, but mainstay of the side. It's just unfortunate they were in a bit of hammer and that take the gloss off it a wee bit. But no, certainly deserves everything. And to get up there with Pat Jennings is absolutely superb.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you can see from the picture there, he hasn't got as big a hand as Pat Jennings. Pat Jennings' hand, Darren, could cover my head. And I've got a big head.
I was away to say he must have big hands if he can cover your head.
Brilliant. Here's a good point that I think
David Davis is a top professional. Obviously, I'm friends with Michael, and he speaks very, very highly of him. And you don't listen, if you're not a top pro, you don't get 119 caps, and I think that's credit to him.
Yeah, absolutely. David Russell says, I'm watching from Alabama, unfortunately, he says. Well, David, listen, you're out there in Alabama. Just make sure your postal vote goes to the correct destination. That's all I'm going to say to you. Now, on to the scores. If you think we've had it rough, well, have a look at the scores from the Nations League group. And some of them were hard to take. Herzegovina 1, Poland 2, Netherlands defeated by Italy. Belarus defeated Kazakhstan, Lithuania with a solitary win there, Romania beating Austria. But that one there is, it's a hard one. Northern Ireland 1, Norway 5. Now, Israel drew with Slovakia. But I have to say, boy, did they look good. And again, Mark made the great point there, Roughie. We don't have a star player. I wish we had one. And the funny thing about it is, Roughie, I wish we had a star player who was above 5'5". This big guy is tall.
Yeah.
His technique is superb, and he knows the way to goal. And I don't know about you, but I always feel as if guys like Mark and Darren possess this quality. To be a striker who scores goals on a regular basis, when you get to the 18-yard box, your heart rate and everything must go cold. You must have that. You must have that calmness to actually think, I'm going to take a breath here and bang, the ball's in the back of the net. And he has it in abundance, doesn't he?
Yeah, certainly the boys were talking about his first goal, and it was absolutely tremendous, But I thought his second goal, he was so ahead of everybody else. He hit it so early. Nobody expected him to hit it so early. And the composure that he had to just place it wherever he wanted to, and it's particularly international level, it's absolutely superb. I thought they had other good players in their side as well. But he is the main man just now, and obviously just getting that move, has obviously helped him along the way. And I'm sure if we're going to play a back three or a back four, if that's who we get, then we'll have to be out of our game.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's all about opinions. John Shue says
Peter.
Davis is a mediocre player. John, I have to disagree with you. You don't get that many caps being a mediocre player. He's a top draw player, Steve Davis. And, he might have a few caps more to go. I think you might have to go and have a long, hard look at yourself, John, today.
We're talking about stats. I think Haaland scored 19 goals in his last 20 games. So that's a stat that it's a positive one rather than just looking at stats.
Yeah.
I think since he's gone to Dortmund, his stats personally will be incredible.
Yeah. Mark, I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to advise me on it because I value your opinion greatly here. Not that I don't value the opinion of the other two who are, either side of you. But I have a World 11 that I picked. My 11 greatest players that if I had a team that I was putting together, I would have them in it. And I'm having an argument with Gabriel, our reporter in here, who says, you're going to have to change one of them sooner or later. And he's told me to get Gerd Muller out of my all-time World 11. Now, Darren's talking about stats. Gerd Muller's stats are frightening, but he's saying to me, you're going to have to drop him for Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm just wondering, do I have to drop him? Do I have to say, look, Gerd, you're out, Ronaldo's in?
I don't know. I think maybe you have to draw a line at a certain date, because you're talking about two different eras of players that are playing in two different worlds, almost two different games, So, I think Ronaldo's got to be in the best 11 of any era, but Gerd Muller was, your sort of Joe Harper type of finisher, he didn't particularly, you never get him in a wide area, but I'll tell you what, like wee Joe, when the ball landed at his feet, it was only one place it was ending up. Any part of his body he would get on the ball and it would end up in the net.
I don't know about you, but I love these debates.
I'm going to be boring here. And another stat I saw, 11 years, I think it was 11 years yesterday or the day before, that Cristiano Ronaldo had left Manchester United. And there's been 7 number 7s since. And they've scored 14 goals in 11 years. And he scored 366.
Yeah. Wow. That's just absolutely outrageous, isn't it?
Sorry, Mark.
He's
a bad decision to let him go.
By the way, 7 number 7s.
The guy that the guy that people want as the next Scotland manager made that decision.
Yeah, exactly. Sir Alex letting him go. Brilliant. Anyway, John Ayre says, is Darren out in his hut? Darren's just going anywhere where he feels safe at the moment. And there's Mark with his caps behind him there, Roughie. McGee is cranking it up for you, Roughie. Behind there, people can get a wee sense of memorabilia, a bit of patriotism. He's cranking it up for you, Roughie.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's just great to see that 3 guys on the show have got more than 50 caps. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Listen, here's tonight's league fixtures, and then we're going to be back to, we're going to hear from Shane Duffy as well coming up. But here's the fixtures for tonight. If I was going to watch a game, I think I'm almost certainly going to watch Denmark against England to see how it all pans out. I wish I'd been on the show yesterday, Roughie, to see how you dealt with the Phil Foden, Mason Greenwood situation probably in your day for those antics. Those two boys would have got an MBE and taken out on an all expenses paid holiday with the Scotland squad. But now suddenly they're bombed out of the England team. But it's just a thought, Roughie.
Yeah. No, it's difficult to comment that, obviously, with the pandemic, this one. It's hard to be serious.
Yes, absolutely.
You have to be serious,
Oh,
we didn't have a pandemic. We didn't have a pandemic to deal with.
By the way, we didn't have what?
Social media.
Didn't have a pandemic to deal with. Yes, exactly. Yeah,
that's a very good point, Mark McGee. We didn't have social media.
For the grace of God goes he.
Yes, absolutely. Or we'd be speaking to Roughie in cell number 584. Anyway, apart from anything else, the world's gone mad, but the two boys, let's hope they are able to bounce back and obviously get a career, because they're two good players. Listen, everybody makes mistakes in life. Let anyone who hasn't sinned cast the first stone on this. We've had two unbelievable lines in this programme. Darren saying, "Can I be boring for a minute?" Wow, narrowed it down to the last minute. That put us all into a state of shock. And then the worst one was Roughie saying, "Can I be serious for a minute?" And I thought, wow, we've lost the plot now. Anyway, apart from anything else, lots of things to talk about, including, of course, good news for fans. Roughie, Aberdeen, Kilmarnock and Ross County Celtic will have maximum 300 fans in. Suddenly, we're in a good place now, slowly but surely getting the test games moving, but I'm not so sure we're moving in the right direction when you consider what's happening in regions around the United Kingdom in lockdown.
No, I think that's why the fans that are allowed into the games at the weekend have to be really responsible. They really need to show that they are the guidelines of what's going to happen in the future, and we can't afford any slip-ups at all. I'm sure the clubs will have covered everything they need to cover, so then it falls on to the supporters, and let's hope they all behave themselves and we don't have any stories and then it's going to knock us back another month or two, because clubs desperately need fans in. I don't care how many it is, 500, 1,000. The coffers need to come into the clubs, and a lot of clubs going to be struggling.
Yeah, Rangers and St Mirren wanted to bring fans back in, but they couldn't, because obviously those particular areas are suffering from lockdown at the moment. So of the fans who can get in, you have to go into a ballot. You have to have bought your season ticket before the 10th of July. And then if you do get a ticket, then you can't get selected in a later ballot for another game. So it's all complicated at the moment, Darren, for 300 lucky fans who get to the game.
Yeah, Peter, it's great. As you said, it's a step forward. You have to be careful because of obviously what's happened in Glasgow and that, but it's brilliant for fans to get back in. I was watching the golf the other day there, and there was about I think about 100 there, and just them making shots getting played onto the green, just them making noise, just make a massive difference rather than just nothing. So I'm not crazy on watching the television with the sound on and with the fans and all that. So, as I say, it's a start, and hopefully it's a positive one.
Yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed on that. Okay, we are going to be hearing from Celtic's latest signing, and that is all coming up after this. Join us on the Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. We're live 4 p.m. weekdays on PLZ Soccer's YouTube and Facebook channel. And If you walk past one of these posters, make sure you have your phone to scan the code to get a special deal from Arnold Clark. Roughie, I don't know about you, but the posters look absolutely magnificent up across Edinburgh and Glasgow. And next week, we're going to give you details of how you can win fantastic prizes on the programme by getting your photograph taken next to the posters. But if you are passing them, Roughie, if you are thinking of buying a car, you scan the code. Bob's your uncle. Special deal.
Does he miss a trick, Mark? Does he? Does he miss a trick? Fantastic. You just can't beat that kind of stuff. You just can't beat it. You know, it's just. I thought Darren's photo looked a wee bit like Messi.
To be fair, I've picked five. I've picked five players. Tell me. Yeah, compared to him, you rubbish. Yeah, you really should do after dinner circuits, Darren. It's absolutely top drawer. The five.
No, just get back to be born.
the five I've shot at you. The five I've picked so far, Mark. Tell me if you're happy with them. I've picked Pirlo. We've got Cruyff. We've got Zidane. We've got Maradona and Messi in our opening 5 world stars. That's not a bad lineup. You'd take them in your team, wouldn't you?
I would take him in my team, but I'm not a great fan of the person Maradona, so I would discount him a wee bit. I would put somebody else in there rather than Maradona.
Yeah.
I'm not a Maradona.
Oh, that's an interesting one. So you think you have to have the complete kind of a package as well? Do you think Fergie was of the same opinion in that Aberdeen side that you had to have everything?
I don't know about the package, but you certainly need the personality. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I think to be considered the complete player, I think you need you need to have everything, and you need to carry yourself. Everything about it has to be right.
Yeah, that's a good point. Interesting one on Maradona. We've never had that on the programme. I know, Roughie, you'd have him in your team any day, even if he was a scurrilous individual at times.
Yeah, it's the first time I've heard, that kind of you lose marks, obviously. I know where Mark's coming from. You lose marks if you've not behaved yourself properly. And are you talking about after he finished the game, Mark? Are you talking about during his playing days or just in general?
Well, I think the character of the guy came through even when he was playing, the hand of God, that sort of thing, I think it sums him up. That was cheating, and it was cheating at the highest level, and I just think that, therefore, he is docked points, and I think there are players that, we would discuss and debate about, are they in the top sort of 10 in the world, who not only were fantastic players, but I mean, you've got another one. There's Platini. Platini, what a player! But again, dodgy kind of experience with the World Cup tickets and all that, and it makes him dainty.
What
Has he finished yet?
What about Ronaldo and Messi with the tax evasion? Is that good?
But
Do you know what this reminds me of, Mark? This reminds me of the committee who selected who get into the Scottish Football Hall of Fame, and every journalist and every panel member had to either put the pros and cons of certain players getting in, and there were some people whose background was shady, to say the least, to which I piped up, and Hugh McIlvanney, I'll never forget, was just sitting at the top of the table with a huge cigar, and I just piped up and I said, Chairman, if we are starting to exclude people from the Scottish Football Hall of Fame based on how they conducted themselves, nobody's getting in. So...
I take it, Mark, that Ryan Giggs isn't one of your favourites.
9 gigs. There's certain players, in certain situations who take advantage. You know that, Rob. You sometimes do things you regret or that you shouldn't have done,
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's his favourite topic, by the way, Mark. Don't go there. Anyway, apart from anything else, listen, one man who is well ecstatic to be here in Scotland is Shane Duffy. This is how he feels about signing for Celtic on a season-long loan.
As soon as I got the call that the deal could be done, I sort of put it to the back, and there was only one place I wanted to go, and it was different. I'm at a difficult stage in my career where I haven't played a lot in the last year, so I had to make the right choice, and I feel like I'm at a good age to come here, and something I wanted to do all my career really is play for Celtic, and I wanted to come here when I'm at a good age and good place where I can go on and be good here and try and be successful. So, but I was delighted, and I went with my heart, and I'm delighted with the decision I made.
Now, Darren, I watched him in a couple of the games. I think a lot of people are talking about his physicality and his no-nonsense approach to defending. It looks as if he can play a bit as well.
Anyway, he can. Of course, he can play, Peter. I've said in the last couple of weeks, he's a defender. He's a proper defender. But he's played a lot in England, and they play out from the back. Everybody plays out from the back, so he has to be decent on the ball as well. He'll know he's not going to be absolutely brilliant and drive out defence into midfield and pick out passes. But of course, he's very, very comfortable on the ball. But first and foremost, he's a real defender, and that's I think what Celtic need.
What do you make of him, Mark?
Well, unfortunately, the subtitles never come up on my telly there. But as a player, I'm a season ticket holder at Brighton, so I've seen plenty of them. And what Darren says is exactly right, and it's what a lot of managers want, and I'm sure it's what Lenny wants of him. He's got a player, a defender who likes to defend. His priority isn't getting on the ball and being a footballer. His priority is stopping the ball going in his own net. He blocks things, he heads it in both boxes, he throws himself in front of stuff. He's a proper defender, and I think he'll bring a steal and he'll organise around him and he'll demand out of his back four and his goalie. So I think he's a great signing for them.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they want, Roughie. They want no-nonsense approach. I think that's what they're sadly lacking at the moment.
Yeah, I was encouraged with his honesty. I think after the two games, he openly admitted he can do a lot better. He's already said he's not had enough games under his belt. So that's a bit of honesty that you're looking for in a player, that he knows that he's got to come up to speed. And I'm sure he will, as Mark said there. He'll organise. We saw what Bruni does in the midfield, and I'm sure he'll do it for the defence as well. So, I think the sooner he gets up to speed, the better for Celtic.
Yeah, and of course he seems to be well excited by this year of all years, especially for what's at stake.
Everyone knows the reason this year is obviously a huge year for the club, and there's a massive reason to come this year as well, and to try and get the 10 in a row. But I'm not stupid. I know it's going to be difficult. I know it's going to be a hard season, and it's one that's in my mind already that it's going to be tough, and but one really exciting challenge that I'm really up for.
Yeah, and that's the key to this whole thing, Darren, because he's one signing. They're obviously Celtic trying to get another couple of players before that window closes to make sure they've got everybody competing in the right places so they can secure 10 in a row.
Of course, Peter, yeah, and he is a massive one. And I think Mark and Roughie were right. He's a leader that they've got at the back that will help Scott Brown. Scott Brown leads the team, and I think he's and you can't have enough. And they've played in teams where there were leaders, and you can't have enough leaders in your team. But they do need I think the biggest thing is keeping Edouard. Yes, they want signings in, but if you were to turn around and say to the fans, if we keep Edouard, we can't bring in. I think they would be happy with that. They need to keep him, Peter. I think he's massive for them this year. But you know what fans are like. They still always want signings, and I think they're looking at a left back. They were looking at a boy from Charlton. So
Alfie Doty.
you can never have enough in a year like this when there's going to be a lot of pressure games. But Duffy, I think Duffy's a great signer.
Yeah, John Mulaney says just what Celtic needed. Hopefully, Ayer will be off as he hasn't settled well at all. Well, I'm not too sure too many people will be off, Roughie. I don't think he wants to lose any. As Darren said, keeping Edouard seems to be the absolute crucial part of this jigsaw.
Yeah, I think we all noticed last year, when it was a wee bit neck and neck, when things came to the crunch, it looked as if the team that had the better squad were the ones that were going to rotate in the right times. And I think Celtic had that advantage. So why wouldn't you want to have as many players there roundabout on the bench or surplus to the 11? You'll take as many as you want if you're the manager.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. A couple of little things just before we finish, guys. Mark, it didn't quite work out for Craig Bryson at Aberdeen. I think he's going to end his contract there. He wants to obviously, I think, get closer to home in Ayrshire, but I thought he was going to be a good signing because of his experience down south as well. He's a tidy player. But, injuries just seem to curtail his time at Aberdeen. I think maybe he's looked at it and thought he hasn't given that club value for money.
It's a shame because he is a good player. We saw him early on in our squads, and I've saw him often in league games. And he's that energy box to box. He's even got a goal in him. So I like that. I thought that is a sort of quality of player that I thought that maybe Aberdeen should be aspiring to, but it's not worked out from as you say. But injuries can do that to any player.
Yeah, we wish him well in whatever he decides to do. Roughie, I think the Rangers supporters are going to have obviously there's a few of them well unhappy with this Castor deal. I know the Club 1872 have released a statement on it. I think Rangers have to maybe a bit more transparency with the fans on this deal. It hasn't quite gone according to plan as far as the quality of some of the merchandise. But there's still time to get it right. I think, if anything, my reading of it is Castor have underestimated the sheer scale of fans who want, first of all, a good deal for the club, and second of all, they want a good product to buy. And I don't think they were ready for the deluge of people who wanted to buy the tops.
No, that seems to be the story that's gone out there. You're right. They were a new company trying to get into football, obviously. And Rangers are a massive club. And the amount of people who have bought the strips have just taken them by surprise. So I'm sure they'll have to get it right, because the Rangers supporters won't accept any quality that's less than the ones at the bottom.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, it is one. There will be other appearances over the course of the season, Roughie, but is it enough, just this one quick appearance at the moment, to secure an invite to the next staff party? I'm just wondering, because it's probably better having a McGee coming off the bench than a Jackson who really doesn't want to mix over the course of a period of time. I'm just suggesting it, Roughie. You've obviously got a deciding vote in this.
Yeah. No, I'm sure Mark would be an asset at any night out, that when we've seen Darren, we know he's a wee bit lightweight, usually, if he's not got the right crystal glass, possibly two or three gins, and he's one of these ones, Mark, that I'm just going to the toilet, guys, I'll catch you in a minute. And then he's away. He's gone. No, it just disappears. Yeah. You don't ever see him again, But I think he enjoys the nights out. He must have had a good note for the weekend.
Roughie, Peter knows the reason, so yeah. I don't have to go. Yeah. I don't have to go on. Peter knows the reason, and I was disappointed.
At least Darren, I'm sure at least you buy a round.
yeah, exactly. The other thing about it, just out of curiosity, I mean, he did have a legitimate reason for not being there, Mark. But I'm going to just give it to you now, Mark. The last staff party he was at, he lasted until 7:30 and was gone. And I'm not talking gone because he had to go somewhere. I'm talking 3 cans and gone. Blabbering, had to get a taxi. I mean, I don't know about you, but he would not have survived on an Aberdeen or a Celtic night out with you.
No, yeah, listen, don't worry about it. I wasn't one of the heavyweights. There was a lot more in front of me, your wee Moes and Machiavellis and all that. Oh, they could go the distance far better than me, I can
Yeah,
assure you.
yeah, absolutely.
And
Listen, it's always well, that's why Roughie's here, by the way. He's the absolute animal of it all. And the funny thing was, I said to Roughie, "Listen, everybody's got wine on the table, but calm your jets." But the big man just steamed in like the true international he is. He was absolutely majestic. And then, of course, the party's going well when I had a fluent conversation with him. But he was staring elsewhere. I was talking to his left ear for about 10 minutes and he didn't even know I was on the planet. So that sums it all up for you. Anyway, apart from anything else, we've got to get Mr. McGee up here for a night out and do a programme, Roughie, on his World 11. Because that will be something.
Yes.
If you're not getting in because, you're a cheat, then I cannot wait to get his 11, Roughie. Can you? That'll be good.
That'll be fantastic. That'd just be interesting to see many Celtic players are in it. Assume through there we'll get a few.
Oh yeah, that's yeah, exactly. Don't say anything. Keep it for the programme.
I take it. Mac is no getting in, even the squad.
oh no. There's got certain things you got to take into account. That you got to discount. Against sort of pressures that a boy like that feels. A good-looking lad is under pressure in a town like Glasgow. So no, there's a lot to be forgiven in the likes of Macca.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, Macca. God, we could do with Macca now up front as well. Can you imagine Macca playing for that Scotland side? It'd have been absolutely magnificent. Listen, last word on it, Darren. Norway's coming up. Are you filled with any sense of optimism, like Roughie, that we can absolutely go and steam this one and change the performance of the last game?
Well, Peter, it's going to be hard. I'm not going to pretend it's going to be very hard, but we need to defend better. You need to pass the ball better. But I do honestly think Dykes could be an asset for us, and I would love to get Billy Gilmore back and fit and not back in the team, get him in the team. But it's going to be hard. But you just live in hope. I'm not going to say I don't fancy them because I want to be positive, and we live in hope that we can get the result and qualify.
Yeah, he's going to have to tinker with it. He's going to have to tweak it. He's going to have to look for maybe one or two that suddenly come into his thoughts again, Mark, for this big game against Israel.
Well, I'm convinced that, if we have, 9 or 10.
Just as Mark was getting confident there, Roughie, we cut him off. That's outrageous, isn't it? I mean, he was just on a confident roll there. I think our producer decided to bullet him because he was sensing he was too optimistic.
Right. No, I think
he's ready to go on about Platini again. He's ready to go for Platini.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I know. I was wondering how many world stars he was going to savage. Roughie. Are you confident yourself, Roughie? Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm confident we'll beat Israel. I really am confident. It's the next game after that. It's the big one for me, particularly away from home. If we play Norway, if it is Norway and it's in Norway, we can't play with a back three. There's no way we can play that game with a back three.
Yeah, I agree with you, Roughie. And if we are playing with a back three, better to have players who actually understand what it's like to play in a back three and have played there before. Just a thought, too many people maybe losing a little bit of hope after that. Let's keep our fingers crossed that Steve Clarke is able to tweak it and we do get a positive result in the next match. Now, don't forget to like, share and follow us. And of course, if you can, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And it's absolutely free. And you'll get all the football updates. You'll get all the news. If you download the PLZ app, you'll get all the news at your fingertips, all the breaking news. And of course, we're out there covering press conferences right, left and centre, giving you the best of Scottish football 5 days a week, thanks to so many people, because the figures are in. It's absolutely superb. We're thoroughly enjoying your support joining the football family. Don't forget, if you see the posters out and about in Glasgow and Edinburgh, get your phone there, and if you're buying a car, scan the QR code on the poster and you'll get a special deal from Arnold Clark that's on at the moment. Good luck with that, and next week I'm going to give you details of how you can win yourself some special prizes with our posters in mind. It's all about joining the football family. From Mark McGee, who's at that moment well and truly gone. Look at that! There he is. There's a face that I'm going to thank now. Thanks to Mark McGee, thanks to Darren Jackson, and thanks to Alan Ruff, and most of all from myself, Peter Martin. Thanks to you for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.